Breaking tonight, sources confirmed to Fox News' Bret Baier, reporting from the Wall Street Journal that forces from the United Arab Emirates are carrying out military strikes inside Iran. Fox is told that the UAE forces are directly engaged inside the Islamic Republic and have been for several days. This comes after Iran launched dozens of missiles and drones at the UAE during the conflict. The president packs his bags for the high-stakes summit to China. Let's get a read from people who know what we should expect from it. Tonight, Bret Baier speaks with the former Australian Prime Minister Kevin Rudd about President Trump's relationship with President Xi Jinping.
I have a very good relationship with President Xi. I find him to be a tremendous guy, and we get along well. But he's been very nice about this. You know, in all fairness, he gets like 60% of his oil from Hormuz, and I think he's been very respectful. We haven't been challenged by China. They don't challenge us, and he wouldn't do that. I don't think he'd do that because of me.
Joining us is former Australian Prime Minister and Global President of the Asia Society here in New York, Kevin Rudd. He's also the author of On Xi Jinping, How Xi's Marxist Nationalism is Shaping China and the World. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us on the program, Bret.
Yes, so we're heading to this summit. I guess from your unique perspective, how is Xi Jinping approaching this summit?
Well, Xi is enormously self-confident. He has no serious political opposition, and he thinks he's in a reasonably strong position, particularly given what he's done with technology recently and advances within China. But at the same time, he also recognises he has an underperforming economy and rising youth unemployment. So when he looks at this summit, his baseline interest, in my view, Bret, is I, Xi Jinping, would like to have a stabilised US relationship, because I need that in order to stabilise and improve my own economic performance.
It has been quite a ride, the relationship between President Donald Trump and President Xi Jinping. How does Xi look at President Trump, do you think?
I think when President Xi, who I've met many times in earlier incarnations of my own political life, both in Australia and in China, when President Xi Jinping looks at President Trump, he sees, number one, a strong leader. There's a second element to it, though. The Chinese system craves predictability on the part of the rest of the world. That's what Marxist-Leninists are like. They like everyone to behave in a particularly predetermined fashion so they can plan accordingly. And I think what they find troublesome about President Trump is his unpredictability.
And if there's one thing the Chinese don't like, it's unpredictability.
Absolutely right. And I think President Trump intuitively understands that.
And uses it to his advantage.
I think, well, he uses it to his advantage, and I think America's advantage in terms of this particular negotiation.
I'm sure Taiwan will be a topic of conversation. It always is. As you know, we understand the Chinese understand our position on that topic. We understand theirs.
Do you expect at this summit that the Chinese, and President Xi in particular, will push President Trump on the issue of Taiwan?
What I understand is that they will want to try and see the president loosen up America's official language on Taiwan.
Which right now is really kind of ambiguous.
Well, it's a technical debate. So do the Chinese want to loosen up American language around full-scale opposition to something called Taiwan's independence in order to shake up domestic politics within Taiwan itself? I think that's where the Chinese would like to go. But my observation of President Trump is that he's not going to fall for that one.
On Iran, do you believe that China feels like it could have some kind of interlocutor position or somehow try to get the U.S. and Iran to a negotiated settlement?
The Chinese have played a game so far of sitting very much on the fence. They make appropriate statements for the benefit of countries in Africa and Latin America, that we are calling upon the Iranians to open up the Straits of Hormuz. At the same time, when there's a critical vote on this, the UN Security Council recently, the Chinese didn't support it. So they've been, as we say in Australia, having a bob each way. But something new has happened. They are beginning to reach a conclusion that this is economically damaging China itself. So what I sense is that there is now a move afoot, since about the middle of last week, for the Chinese to put more pressure on the Iranians to get real about opening the Straits of Hormuz, not because they like Uncle Sam, necessarily, but because their own interests are clicking into gear.
But they're feeling a squeeze, right? I mean, because of Venezuela, because of Iran and the exports, well, imports to them, that they're not getting.
That's true. And though they've made long preparations for this with huge strategic stockpiles of oil, which can take them out 6 to 9 months, even that's not infinite if the thing was to keep on going. And they've had a very long, hard strategic look at what happened in Venezuela in terms of oil reserves, but also the ability of the American military to act.
What does a win for China look like at the end of this summit this week? What does a win for the U.S. at this summit look like?
My overall judgment is both sides, if I read carefully what President Trump is saying and what President Xi Jinping is saying in different contexts, is they want a stabilized relationship. I'm not anticipating the United States is going to say, well, we're going to cancel all your tariffs, we're going to suddenly liberalize the foreign investment regime or the technology regime. But the Chinese, I think, want that not to get worse. On the American side, though, the position put by President Trump at the Busan meeting at the end of last year with President Xi Jinping is fairly clear, which is buy more American stuff, buy more ag, buy more resources, that's coal, buy more American aircraft, that's Boeing. By the way, get rid of the bans on rare earths and fix fentanyl. You do that, you've got a stable relationship. Now, can the Chinese come to the table on all 5 of those? Not sure.
The trip itself is likely going to be pomp and circumstance. We know President Trump likes that. The Chinese know he likes that from the first trip there.
And the Chinese like a bit of pomp and circumstance themselves.
At the end of this, is there a sense that President Trump will send the message that we are both global world leaders, that this is almost a G2, that we respect each other, we get to this point, and we do a deal because we understand we're the most powerful countries in the world?
Remember, China wants to be numero uno. Okay, in Chinese, that's D number 1.
Okay.
And so what I argue is a framework which recognizes the differences and manages those red lines. 2, have non-kinetic competition, and that is non-force-driven, non-military competition across trade, investment, technology, foreign policy, ideology, the rest, and made the best system win. And then thirdly, being smart enough, old enough, wise enough, and ugly enough to work out, here are 2 or 3 areas where it's in your interests and mine, China and the United States, to work together. That's what I call managed strategic competition. You need a couple of smart folks at high level in both capitals then to operationalize it on a daily, weekly basis.
We'll follow it, and we'll have you back afterwards to digest it all. Kevin Rudd, thanks so much.
Thanks, Brett, for having me on the program.
Yep.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.